Hi everyone. Today I'd like to show you around the old-time Christmas tree farm in Spring, Texas. The managers at the farm were kind enough to let me film here and paint a view of their Christmas tree fields. I filmed this on the morning of the first day of their Christmas season, so everything was still pretty quiet. I think this is actually the first time I've been at a tree farm. My family always buys pre-cut trees from lots. I took a tractor ride out to the fields with a few other people looking for Christmas trees. There's something beautiful but surreal about all these perfectly shaped trees growing in perfect rows. The farm is right by an airport, and since it was a clear, sunny day, there were tons of small planes flying overhead. I guess this is perfect flying weather. It was really interesting to see the trees in different stages of growth. There were tiny saplings planted in between huge 6-foot-plus trees. It's just amazing to think that this tiny little thing, if left alone, will grow into a massive tree someday. I decided to sit down and set up my equipment to paint this particular row, since I had a view of full-grown trees in contrast with the little sapling and the beautiful sky overhead. It was still early morning, so there was a lot of dew on the ground. I ended up sitting on my canvas art tote bag. I still got a little wet, but it didn't bother me. It was also cool enough that the sun felt pleasant. I started off with a very rough sketch, just to establish the horizon line, the general shapes of the trees, and the vanishing point of the rows. If you've ever studied drawing perspective and vanishing points, you couldn't ask for a more perfect real-life example than a Christmas tree farm, since all the trees are planted in such straight rows. Once I finished with the sketch, I immediately started with a wash of blue over the entire sky, down to the horizon line, since I wanted the blue to be peeking out from behind the pines growing at the edge of the farm. I also did some loose green and brown washes over the rest of the background. It's pretty messy at this stage, as you can see. The next step was to start painting those huge pine trees growing along the boundary of the farm, along the edge of the airport. They were a sort of dull, hazy, warm green that was very different than the intense blue-green of the Christmas trees, and I wanted to make sure I caught that color contrast. I ended up doing several washes over the sky, building up that brilliant blue. The sky lightened as it got near to the horizon, and doing multiple washes allowed me to show that gradient more easily than if I'd tried to get it in one pass. I'm starting on the rows of Christmas trees now. You can see that I've mixed a much cooler blue-green for these trees than I used for the distant pines or the grass. I'm also going to make them much darker than the trees in the distance. Usually objects that are close up have a much more vivid contrast in values, lights and darks, than objects that are farther away. There's an atmospheric haze that softens the lights and darks the farther away an object is. My favorite part of this painting is that tiny sapling in the foreground. It reminds me of Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. Towards the end of the painting session, I added the shadows that the trees were casting on the ground. This is just straight Payne's gray. The sun was very bright and the shadows themselves were very dark by contrast. One more wash of blue over the sky, and we're just about finished. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season.